Session 42. In last session, we started to touch upon, people have standard, what is good looking, what is not so good looking, and, what is it really people are good at, and what is not good at, they have standard for everything. Is that good? Of course, do you want to, pay a good price for a merchandise that, delivered with really poor quality? Not me. I would be really upset. And of course, all the legal training I had would actually put me to a either a something in writing or a telephone call with the legal department or the counsel of the company or whoever provide that merchandise. Why? Because hey, where's your quality standard, right? So that's a standard we do want to maintain. But then that is good at and not so good at, right? Obviously, you get what you paid for. If you pick up something cheapy, you don't expect, good quality. You get what you paid for. But then we're back at what is good looking. That over time changes a lot. At least in the Chinese ancient history, right? So in Tang Dynasty, okay, that was one of the big GDP, good economy times, and the Chinese emperor back then, they were so confident and comfortable about themselves. They welcome all different kind of religion, came to their capital of the kingdom. They had the Judaism actually came, and the emperor actually set a place of a temple for the people who came here and practiced Judaism, and of course, Catholic, Christian, all different kind, right? And of course, Muslim too. And there's a big population of Muslim in China, even today. I don't know what happened to the, doesn't matter, just leave it there. So that was the Tang Dynasty, right? And then because of this open environment, right, all this, very relaxed atmosphere, people, especially women, all wanted to, become really fat, because back then fat women were desired by men. This does not sound like politically correct today. But back then, of course, women, they were not economically independent. They did have to find a way to please men. And for some reason, the Chinese men back then, they preferred the fat women, okay? Huge, like barrels. According to the traditional paintings of the Chinese women in Tang Dynasty or Empire. And then, of course, it changed. But I do know that in history, as recorded, there, back in the Wei Jin period, there was a king from Chu kingdom. He preferred, in his own taste, women with very, very, small waistline. So they show the curve. And in fact, his royal palace were built all in that, shape, of very small waistline. And of course, that didn't last long. And then, also in the Wei Jin period, I probably mentioned, for a period of time, all the women back then preferred the men look like women. And those Chinese women, they actually did makeup and they walk like women, okay? Of course, today, for me, it's kind of hard to understand why would women want to get into bed with men like women, but hey, and that's not, and that I'm telling you, that's not lesbian. That is actually, just a taste for the opposite sex back then. Um, and of course, I'm not really having any opinion on people of different sexual orientation. I mean, that's again, we talk about judgment, the standard. I don't judge. I'm a Taoist. You are who you are. I am who I am, right? Uh, we, you don't judge me. I don't judge you, right? I guess that's it. So anyway, if we don't have this standard to judge other people, I guess we would all be happy. We can get along famously, with each other, right? But because we all have standards, right? I don't like the way you look, or I don't like the way you talk, or I don't like the way you act. I don't have any reason, but I just don't like you. And nevertheless, I'm going to give you some hard time. Freedom, right? Of course, in a society, people are more civilized. They try to hide it, right? Politically correct or not, you don't want to be rude. You basically, keep everything to yourself. But that doesn't mean you don't have a standard to judge other people. You do. And so you are judged too. Don't complain, right? I don't want to be political, okay? Because being a Taoist, I'm really supposed to be above and beyond all this politics stuff. Because we'll talk about that in probably later sessions, because we'll come to that. What is 无为而治? Meaning, to achieve the order with non-actions, right? But we don't have to get ahead of ourselves. But anyway, back to the point. I guess it's not really my genuine political stance per se, but it's just one way I look at these things. When the things happen these days on the street, if they're peaceful demonstration, I think people are entitled to their opinion. I don't care if they're right or wrong, good or bad. They have their opinion. So if we are in the 21st century, we cannot tolerate different opinions. What does that make us? What does that make this society, right? So if you're doing a peaceful demonstration, I don't care what you think you're doing and what you think is the cause that you're doing this for, as long as you're doing demonstration peacefully, because all the freedom and democracy does not come at the price of others to suffer, right? But when all these things start to turn into some kind of violence, then I really don't know. Whatever cause you have, I don't think it justifies, right? But then in the meantime, I want to say something, and I know a lot of people will not agree with me. You go to Brazil, right? You see the people with all different color, the Asian, a lot of Japanese descendants, and you see, African descendants, and they're together. They don't even know any difference. Why? Because in that society, there is no such a racial thing. You don't even realize you're different, being Asian or black or whatever. You are Brazilian, right? So I remember I asked a person in my kayak club. I said, "Are you Japanese?" Obviously, he carries a Japanese family name, and he looks Asian. And here's his answer. He said, "Oh, my grandfather was Japanese." Typically, you don't hear that from the Han Chinese, but I was shocked just a few months ago. There was this young student, graduate student in China, and her last name was a very typical Han name taken by the Manchurians, okay? When you hear that last name, you immediately respond, oh, this is Manchurian. So I asked, just slipped out because I have half the, in my, I guess, bloodline, I have half of that. So I asked, so are you Manchurian? I thought, this is something, ooh, yeah, I could relate to. And guess what the answer was? And I never thought this would come out of Chinese. She said, oh, my grandfather, he was a Manchurian. And I'm like, what does that mean? So I guess either you don't identify with that blood or you're somehow ashamed of that bloodline. You're not very proud of, the fact that you have the Manchurian blood because you're ashamed of it, right? What does that mean? That means basically people judge, right? So now we're back, talking about the USA. In this country, if you're a certain color, of your skin, you feel differently. For whatever historical reason, you just feel differently, I guess. A lot of people try to identify themselves with certain racial group. I don't think that's healthy at all, okay? So, for instance, if you're a woman, and because in America, women are considered a minority, right? I don't know, maybe that's statistic choose or whatever it is, but if you're a woman, would you accept a promotion based on your gender just because, oh, you're a woman, you're a minority, we feel so sorry for you. So instead of promoting some, more qualified man, now we'll give this position to you. Wouldn't you be happy making more bucks? What do you think? I would think, that would be an insult for me. I mean, I can relate to that as a minority. I mean, we talk about the Latino, African American, they're supposed to be a minority, but how many Chinese in USA? You don't get more minorities, in this case. So I'm a Chinese, but I would absolutely feel insulted if people just give me a special treatment because I'm a minority. Because you know what? I am as good as any other race, standing up right next to them, shoulder to shoulder. I earn my position. I refuse absolutely any special treatment based on my race or gender, right? So if you're a woman, or you're for a African American, or you're for a Latino or Latina, do you really want that special treatment or something that other people refer to as handout? Does that really tell you this, special treatment is the equal rights? That's not equal. That's a reverse, discrimination against other race. And I don't care what that race is. You may think this sounded like white, but hey, look at me. I'm not white, right? But I don't want to get into this politics thing at all. I'm just telling you the standard, a lot of them established, created, really just with no benefit at all, right? If we're talking about, Brazil, where, people of different color of skin or racial differences, they live in a very peaceful harmony, don't they? They don't even realize any difference until they landed in America. Oops, I ain't white. There's a difference here, right? So what I'm trying to say is the really, good harmony for a society is eliminate all this, racial thing. And here's another example. I one time I talked to a colleague of mine who was the African American, and we both agreed on this because, sometimes you would have people say, I don't have problem with blacks. Well, the fact you're saying this, you don't have problem, you actually do have problem, because otherwise you wouldn't even think about it. You wouldn't even need to bring this up, because you're trying to tell yourself, hey, I'm open. I see that, but I pretend I don't see that. But hey, fact is, you actually try to reason with yourself, and that's already there, right? Of course, are we going to pretend there's nothing here? No, America is not Brazil, okay? A lot of people may not agree with me, but we're backward compared to Brazil on this because we don't have a harmonious society. Because a lot of people, I don't care what race you have, but a lot of people just have, basically this racial thing, one side against another. So whatever happened, one little incident, boom, it's all related to the racial thing. Is it really? I don't know. But do we have the whole fact, the big picture? Do we have all the information on exactly what happened and all the elements, contribute to this? I don't know. Do you have it? I don't have it. All I see, people get excited, okay, over the street. A lot of commotions. I'm not dismissing that. If you're doing the peaceful demonstration, I'm all for it. Because either you or me or somebody else, whoever, I got an opinion, I got to say it. So I just file with the police authority and get the police protection, escort or whatever, and then go out there, take it to the street, right? Have our banners, let our voices be heard. Maybe we were wrong. Maybe we were right. But we have our rights, right? That's supposedly the Constitution guaranteed that in America. But not if you are looting the stores, burning the cars, attacking people physically. That ain't right. So when you do this in the name of whatever cause, I don't think it's justified. And in fact, I question that standard by itself, right? Of course, you're saying, oh, I see things in pattern. Maybe. But does any isolated incident, and I'm not saying that this time, this particular event was an isolated, incident. I don't know that. Like I said, there is no whole truth already presented, so we know the whole thing. We don't. But I'm just presuming that somebody else presumed that whatever happened is absolutely a pattern of entire social behavior of certain group, against other groups. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's not. But hey, stop the looting. Stop burning the cars. Stop, basically ventilating everywhere, and steal things. That is just plain wrong. And now I question, are you just using this, judgment standard against other judgment standards? Let's just say there actually is a group against other groups, and other groups, basically do the same thing back against that group. Does that make it right? Let's say you steal things from me, and I'm going to steal back from you. Not necessarily the same thing that is rightfully mine, but I'll just steal your thing because you stole from me. Does that sound like justified actions? So this is what I'm talking about. The standards. So lots of times they don't really help because they are basically passing the judgment onto each other and causing this, society in an even worse polarization. And I don't like that because that's not a peaceful, harmonious society, come into the formation, because we don't need that, okay? As far as I'm concerned, I'm colorblind. I don't care, yellow or black or white or brown, whatever, red. It doesn't matter to me, okay? So that, again, is about the judgment of the standards. So we know what is good looking. We know what is, better at or good at. And nevertheless, by comparison, there's not so good looking and there's not so good at. And that is all about the standard to judge. And if you don't judge people, people don't judge you. We can both be happy, right? That's the analogy I used, and I hope I'm not offending anyone out there. Okay, like I said, I'm a colorblind. I don't side with any group identify themselves by their race. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, you want to be a good citizen of human society. I don't care about the race. Um, I guess I'll save some for the next sessions. All right. So until then, ciao.